Well, there we go, guys. That is a good start to things being bolted onto the bike. A few small changes. I'm excited to see if the taller windscreen does alleviate that buffeting that I've been experiencing on the bike. Obviously, as I mentioned, I'm not super impressed by the headlight or radiator guards. They're on there now. We'll give it a go. We'll see how they fare. I can always bolt the things back off. We will definitely in the next episode get on to putting the rally seat and plastics on the bike. I wasn't sure if it was going to happen in this episode, and having a bit of a look at the kit, there's quite a bit involved with that. It changes a lot of the bike, so that will definitely be its own episode. Hey guys, and welcome to this episode of the Bad Idea Bros. Today you join me in the shed again, and we will be continuing work on my Himalayan 450. Now, if you saw the last episode, you would have seen that we did everything on the front of the bike, so that was definitely a win, but we did run out of time to work on the rear. Now, that's going to be today's goal. We've obviously got that full rally plastics kit to change the back end of the bike, and we've got the solo seat that complements that. So there are a lot of parts inside the box for this kit, and I haven't really researched how to do it, so this will definitely be a learning process. Now, this isn't so much a how-to video, but you will be coming along with me for the whole process, so you may learn something with any luck. Hopefully I learn how to do it properly, because I'll be the one fitting it to the bike. But guys, this should be an interesting one, and I'm looking forward to the changes this will make to the bike, so let's do it. Okay, so it's all about these two boxes today, guys. The one on the right is the seat. We're not so worried about that just yet, but this guy here is the one that we need to crack open. So, a little bit of an unboxing, but you can see that there are a whole bunch of bits and pieces in here. We've got all the different plastics, obviously the different side panels are in here. So what we'll do is we'll get all of that out, we'll lay it on the floor so we can get a good idea of what we're actually looking at, and then we'll start pulling apart the back end of the bike and see if we can't make all this fit. Okay, so that's got everything unboxed, and as you can see, there's not a whole bunch of components, only a couple of brackets. It's just the hardware that's going to be a bit of a nightmare, all individually bagged for the different items, so that's definitely a good starting point, but no instructions, so that could be tricky. I mean, some of it's pretty self-explanatory. Obviously, this is the license plate hanger that'll replace the big chunky one that's on the back here at the moment, so that's a lot smaller and tidier, so that's definitely a win. And I'm assuming that we've got the likes of this bracket here. I would say that that goes in the top end of that. And those two bits there will probably be where the indicators mount. That's just a guess, I don't really know. That's self-explanatory. We've got the inner fender there. That one is also going to be an inner. And then we've got the two side panels and the new rear panel. So guys, I'm not too put off by it. I think it should be reasonably straightforward. It's just a matter of using the right fasteners in the right places. I think the best plan of action would be to just start disassembling the bike, because obviously the whole back end needs to come apart. So these guards here and everything do end up getting replaced. As does the tail. So yeah, if we pull that apart, we should get an idea of how it's put together, and hopefully that'll be transferable to the new ones. So yeah, let's give it a go. Well guys, I thought I'd better give you a little update just because I've been quite silent in trying to figure out this catastrophe of bits. Now obviously I've pulled the whole back end of the bike apart, you would have seen that, and we've got the standard bits here. Obviously the crash bars will be reusing. I have no idea what we will and won't reuse out of the hardware there, so I've kind of laid it out in a fashion that I can hopefully remember where everything came from. And I'm currently working on the inner guard, I suppose it would be, that then goes into the license plate holder. Trying to use the original for some sentiment of an idea. Now, the indicators and brake light assemblies, man, these things are really giving me grief. Like, there was a couple of little clips in there, they popped out nice and easy, but for the life of me, I cannot figure out how to get the actual indicator assemblies off of this plastic. You guys at home probably laughing at me because it's common knowledge, but I don't want to break them, so I'm not trying to force things. I'll have a look online and see if I can't find some sort of cheat sheet as to what's going on there. So I'm working on this at the moment and trying to route the wiring. Now, these wiring clips, they weren't there. I've added those to it. I'm making an educated guess, shall we say. This is not perfect. I'm probably going to have to fine-tune it, but it's at least getting us somewhere. There are little bits that do make sense. So obviously we've got the 3 bolts and that locating dowel there. That corresponds with those 3 bolts and the relief on that metal bracket. So that clearly goes like such. My assumption being that this must go over the top of that, just because of the way things are. So yeah, a bit of guessing. I've then got, like, you know, actually I should move that so I don't lose it. These brackets here, absolutely no idea what they're for. I'm hoping that they will just present themselves at the right time as to where they live. So there's that. And then the hardware, which again was the thing I was mostly worried about. Trying to figure out what's what. You know, we've got tiny little ones like this. These are, I'm guessing, to be the next ones I need, purely because there's 3 of them there. They seem to line up with the size for what we're after to put this together. But then that being said, they're obviously, if you can see in the packet there, there is a shoulder on these which would go into the reliefs of the plastic here, but then there's no captive nut or anything on the base of these, so doesn't actually look like there's any nuts here, so I'm assuming that we use these panel clip style things, but do they actually have reliefs? Yeah, see, now there's no real reliefs in there. Could probably get one on that back one at the center, but those top ones are a bit of a question. And this is obviously vastly different to how the standard one was, so no tricks or tips from that. They're just grommets. Big bung of some description. What are they? Spaces, they'll go around the back plastics, I imagine, in those holes. Some more bungs. So no nuts at all. Well, guys, this is yeah, this really is a bit of a head scratcher. So yeah, it's not as straightforward as I was hoping. I knew there'd be quite a bit of brain power involved in this one and figuring it out, but man, I might just have to start putting some bits on the bike and see if I can't do a process of elimination. Yeah, that's probably the best bet. Yeah, sorry guys, I was hoping this would be more descriptive. You know, saying things like, oh, these bolts are for such and such. Well, these ones I can actually tell you what they're for. They'll replace the standard bolts that mount the rear bars on. I'm almost positive of that. And they will countersink into these, just so everything's tidy on them. That much I'm pretty sure of. But then we've got things like little rubber grommet there. So I'm not sure what that's about. Some more little rubber grommets, or are they? No, they're metal washers. Yeah, this is an interesting one, guys. So I guess I'll just keep going and see what happens. Alright guys, so after quite a bit of frustration and experimentation, I have figured out, obviously, how to change these indicators from the standard one to the tail tidy. Now, like I said before, I could not figure out how to get these things out, and I had a look online. I couldn't honestly find much, so a bit of experimentation, and thankfully I figured it out without breaking them. I didn't want to just yank them because, you know, that wouldn't be the smart thing to do. So I thought, because I couldn't find much online, I would do this to show you guys and hopefully be a bit of help there. So I've left the right hand one on. What we've got in here, and I'll do my best to show you guys this, is some rubber clips that go on the sides there. So what you do is you pry the rubber clips back. There's one on either side, and for that you're going to need a pick or a little bar or something just to make your life easier. This is going to be tricky on film, but that's the back one and the front one, and then that gives you space to get this annoying little clip off. So he slides off over the wiring. This is much easier with two hands. Okay, like so. Now that's all this is, just this little clip, and these two tangs on the side are what go into the reliefs there. Hopefully you can see that. Now that was pretty straightforward to figure out. This is the bit I really struggled with, because if you look at that as it is, and you guys probably aren't going to see a heck of a lot, there's no, you know, clear bolt or anything that seems like it would actually hold these on. And if you just give them a yank, there's nothing that sort of moves. Now what I didn't realize, and I actually found this by accident, is that on the inside of this, might be easy with my finger, if you give it a bit of a wiggle to loosen it up, not going to see it on film, but there's a ridge that does appear, and that's because there's actually a plastic cone inside these rubber bits. So hopefully I can fish this out. There we go. So there we go, same thing again, slide it over the wiring, and that's the cone. So that slides inside that bit in there, which again you guys probably aren't going to see so well, but you know, we'll do our best. And that just slides in, and I don't know, it must give it some rigidity or something. But once you've got that out, you can just push that rubber tag in, and the whole thing will pop out like so. Installing, just as I mentioned, feed the wiring through, squish that rubber body, and it will, with a little bit of persuasion, Try and do that narrow side first. There we go. It will eventually locate itself in, and there we go. So you could potentially use a bit of rubber grease or something on that, but I didn't really feel the need. So that's got that in. Right, now it's that cone for the inside of it, so straight over the wiring. It's an annoying little tag telling you what it is. He slides home, bit of pressure down to make sure it's flush with that surface, and then we'll do the same with the retaining clip. Over the wiring, over the tag. Now with this one it's probably easier to try and get the rear tang in just because there's not a heck of a lot of room there. And once you've got that, pull the rubber forward, get that wire out of your way. Pull that rubber forward. It should, if you've got everything right, click into space just like so. Just going to use that pick to make sure the rear one's where it needs to be, which it is. And there we go. That's got those back where they need to be. Okay, so as I'm sure you can imagine, there is an order of process to get this thing done. I now have the wiring on the new inner guard. I'm not sure if this is exactly how it's meant to go, but it seems about right, so I am going to run with that for the moment. Now, I'm going to try and be as descriptive here as possible, guys, so that you don't get stuck with the same problem that I had, but I think this is the way things need to go. These little flat hex bolts, they came out of the underside of the guard originally, and these are going to need to be used to mount the inner fender on the bike again. So this is a new one. So these little holes here, there's one on either side. These bolts that I've just shown you, they should fit through that, and that's the first port of call in mounting this rear guard onto the bike. Okay, so this does dictate where these end up going, and I think I've actually told you guys a bit of a lie there. It's not these lower ones that have these bolts go through them, it is actually these upper ones, and they will line up with the nutserts on the frame there. The reason that I know that is that, if you can see, we've got these two main bolts here. They line up with the frame just there. So if we just get that wiring out of the way for a moment, if we line them up roughly where they need to go, that shows me, hopefully you're going to see this, if we put that bolt through there, that lines up perfectly for the inner guard. Now, we can't put that in just yet because we are going to need to connect the wiring harness. So this is the bike side, hopefully you can see that, and this is the wiring harness that we removed from the original guard. We've now fitted it to the new guard, and that should just click back into place, hopefully, like so. Beautiful. We'll tuck that up out of the way. That's roughly where it was on the original guard, and we'll bolt this inner fender in place, hopefully for the last time. Okay, so this is where it does get a bit tricky because we're juggling quite a few bits here. Now, through process of elimination earlier, I discovered that this, obviously the tail tidy, goes over the top of this bit here, and then your metal bracket goes over the top of everything, I guess for the rigidity of it. But honestly guys, figuring out where all these little captive bits went and on which side, that was super tricky, but we did get there. Now what I am going to do is feed my wires through first. Let's get this one out of the way. We may need to go back through and figure out all of this routing and tidy it up, but for now it should be okay. What I might do is just put one of these bolts in temporarily to hold this whole thing together like that. And what I want to do is we just want to plug all of these back into where they go and make sure that everything's still working as it should be. Especially the indicators, I'm not sure which side's which. It looks like that one wants to go about there, so hopefully this is correct. Let's say that's that one. Let's move him out of the way for now. So that's that one, and we'll try this one on this side. Right, there we go. Okay. So I'm going to turn this on and we'll see if these lights are going to work the way that they should be. Okay, ignition on, park lights working, license plate lights working. Do we have brake lights? We sure do. Left hand indicator, right hand indicator. Okay, seems like that all works. Okay, now this is the bit that does feel like it's quite a bit of juggling, and that is putting this metal bracket in with all this. Now, obviously I just had that bolt in there temporarily to hold it together, because that does need to go back over the top like so. We can put that bolt back through the whole lot now. That. Alright, so these bolts, guys, are all this pretty much the same. Well, they 10mm head, and they do have a shoulder that basically pulls tight against things without crushing them, and obviously we've got the same thread. They seem to be the most prevalent on the bike. We do have two that go up from underneath into these two locations, but you can't do that until we've got the inner guard in. But I think what we can do is these little guys. There's only two of these in the kit that it comes with, and they're just a button head Allen key, and being silver they kind of stuck out as being for something different, and they, you're not really going to see, but they mount in just behind this relief here into some nutsert clips that you have to put into the black plastic. So I'm pretty sure we can get those in now without having any trouble. Like I said, guys, this is as much a learning experience for me as it is for you guys watching at home, and I do hope that it is useful to some of you, because man, it probably won't show on film, but I have spent a lot of time here trying to get this thing right. Making sure that the two front holes are still lined up, which they are. Okay, that's him tightened down. We are getting there with that. Okay, yeah, I think we are at a point now where we can put the side covers on. So obviously these are the nice shiny plastic bits, and they require some of these panel clips, so for the nutsert sort of things. And for those, we've got a couple of different bolts. So these type here, flat Allen type, again just a small shoulder on that, but a different type to what we were looking for. So we've got two of those, and this little guy here. Now there are only two of these in the kit, so it's pretty obvious that they are for something specific. These type here, we do have a few more of those, but there are quite a few of the panel pins to put in. So what we're looking at were the brackets that I wasn't sure about before, and they actually end up just under the frame of the bike here on this original mounting point. So this is an H5 Allen key, and on the back side of that, just between the battery and the frame, is a little 8mm bolt, if I get my finger out of the way. So that just undoes, and this little bracket goes in place, and you can see that it's got a little thread retainer there. So that will locate the front bolt on this plastic just up here somewhere, and that does just end up bolting into there. And we've obviously got these recesses there, and where are we? There. They correlate with those little nutserts that we put in before, and that guy there. So yeah, guys, Looks like 3 mounting points on those, so we'll get those wound into the bike, and that should have this guard fitted to this side. We'll repeat it for the other side, and then that way we are starting to look a bit more like a complete bike. Alright, so I think we're all good there now. We can just put this ducktail on, which doesn't actually appear to... I see. We should have done the ducktail first, guys. There's little reliefs that these side panels actually fit onto. We might get lucky, actually. We might be able to do that still. Can we? We'll try bolting it down and we'll see what happens. Is it going to let me? Yes. Okay, very good. Huh, interesting. Interesting. Okay, so that is definitely not right, guys. I'm making an assumption here, but I'd say running these, so the bolts that they come with and these little countersunk bits, they'll be if you don't want to run the bars, purely because these are not long enough, and I'll grab an original to show you. These are not long enough to go through and actually be bolted on from the inside. So I guess if you don't want to run the rack on the rear, that's what you'd use. But because I do want to run my rack, I still need to run the original bolts. At a guess, I'm not sure, but that feels like what it'd be, just purely because these are definitely not long enough. If these countersunk into the side of the rack, then yeah, maybe, but that's all I can sort of see, is that that might be the case. So yeah, I guess we'll put that rack on without that and just see how we go. Okay, so we finally got those bolts in, and we can now tighten them up. So 10mm nut on the inside, which can be a bit of a pain to get to. H6 on the outside. Alright. We do obviously want those to be somewhat tight. And do this in a cross pattern. Don't know if it really matters, but it makes me feel better. So let's see if we can get onto that. Well, there we go, guys. That is all done, thankfully. That was a massive job. I knew it was going to be, but It was all that much worse purely because I didn't have any instructions. There may be some online. I wasn't able to find them. Like I said, I tried to do this one as detailed as possible so that if you guys are in the same position as me trying to fit this kit to your bike, that at least you have some sort of idea. So hopefully I've achieved that. Love the look. Really, really do love the look. The back end has tidied up so much. It's got rid of that huge, chunky whale tail that it had. It was just really bulbous and big. The new license plate holder and everything on there is considerably smaller. Similar design, but it's just all slimmed down. And I think it just makes the bike look a little more streamlined. Rear plastics, fantastic. Really, really, really love the look that gives the bike. It was almost missing. The factory plastics just sort of tapered off to a finished point. And with the big wide seats and stuff, that made sense. It looked fine with those, but that narrower solo rally style seat, it would have looked weird if I didn't have those other plastics. Don't love the fact that it's white. It's a shame that I wasn't able to get it in the same yellow gold to match the rest of the bike, but hey, it is what it is. It might be a good location to put the sponsorship stickers because it is a blank canvas, as it were. The seat, really excited to give that a go. It feels quite firm, but I think it'll be okay. And it already feels more comfortable than the big wide seats. Big wide seat is really comfortable, and for touring and that sort of stuff, I'm sure it's great. But the riding I want to do with this bike, that solo seat is definitely going to be more suitable. But guys, that was a heck of a day. And this is going to be one heck of an edit because real time, I've probably spent 4 or 5 hours doing this. I'm sure that it would be a lot quicker the second time around, and if I had instructions, it definitely would have been a lot quicker. Trying to figure out what every little bolt and, you know, the nutserts and everything that comes with were for, that was the hardest part. The components themselves pretty straightforward. It was only really going to go together one way. It was just figuring out all the hardware. But very happy and very excited to take it on its next run. Still waiting on the crash bars and the tyres, a couple of other little bits and pieces, but that's probably going to be another video on its own whenever they do arrive. So guys, I really hope you enjoyed this one. This was a mission, and I hope that this is a little instructional if that's what you're watching the video for. Otherwise, as always, we do thank you for following along, and we'll see you in the next one. Bye!